Welcome to another story roundtable from It's All Been Done Radio Hour. I'm Jerome Wetzel, the writer-creator, and we are talking privates. So we have the stars of privates here. First, Keith Jackson, who plays Jake Cotton, our lead.
We'll just have to take it on faith.
Shane Stefanchik, Frank Barry.
Oh, hello.
Kristin Green is running slightly late. Judy Bench, she'll join us soon.
I'm sorry.
We'll go through the leads.
He's going in order of importance.
Cordelia's not a lead, but she's important enough. I invited Sam to be part of the roundtable.
Why, thank you.
Samantha Stark, who plays Cordelia Bench.
Hello.
You've been in a lot of episodes, but not all of them.
Yep.
Whereas season 1, there was only one lead, and then in season 2, we upped Frank and Judy to lead status. Let's talk to Keith first. Season 1. What interested you about the part, and how did you approach playing Jake Cotton?
I wish I'd been prepared for that question. It's really hard to remember how anything happened anymore. Mm-hmm. It's of course it sounded interesting, the old noir detective style of things and that kind of narration. It took me a while to get more comfortable with it, but I think what was in my head was sort of like the Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen sort of style of going at it. Which,
very flat delivery, yes. But yeah.
It can, yeah. I think that's an important point to bring up, the flatness, which can be difficult sometimes or detrimental. So I had to keep adjusting as I went, I think.
Yeah. Well, season 1 was very put together kind of haphazardly, bit by bit. It wasn't pre-planned out ahead of time, which is why you were the only lead character, because I wasn't sure how often we'd use anybody else. But after season 1, it proved to be a pretty popular miniseries. It was only going to be a miniseries, and people liked it, so we made it a full segment with full length, and that's when we decided to expand the characters. So Frank was an obvious choice, because Frank and Jake got really kind of, not gelled's the wrong word, but they had a good dynamic in season 1.
Yeah, just the very sort of opposite of a person.
Yes.
The Jake.
But why do you think Frank wants to work with him so bad? Because it definitely feels like Frank is pushing his way in there.
Yeah.
In the partnership.
I think, we're really going to go the therapist on it. We met his family at one point, and I think, he sees a kinship in Jake that, it's like, this is a better relationship than any of the family I've ever had, even if it's one-sided. Mm-hmm.
You think his affection for the Benches plays into it too? Like, if he's going to be the son-in-law, I better be...
Yeah.
What is the age difference supposed to be? I never really thought about it.
So we know that Judy and Jake have been...
Speaking of which...
Yes.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten started, but you joined us only a couple minutes ago.
We just did intros, really.
Yeah. Judy, Kristin Green has entered. How do you think Jake feels about being forced to work with Frank now?
It's so hard to tell because, the way it's written, it seems like, of course, he is still upset about it and there's still that kind of thing. I don't know. I wonder if things would play differently with video than... I guess we got to do that during the Zoom era, didn't we?
Sure.
But, just there's certain nuances that are hard to catch when it's audio only, as far as, is he really just covering affection or something, or just...
It doesn't
does he
feel
really
like
need
it.
him?
As the writer, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he doesn't want to work with him. Do you think, at this point, Jake has been forced into this, as he's forced into so many things. Do you think he's looking for a way out, or are you playing it as, I'm just going to go along with what happens?
I think since the question even came up, since it was asked by you,
sure.
I think my impression has been influenced by all the tropes. This is there's always that heart of gold thing. There's always that story arc where they have to force them to, okay, I'm reluctant, but I really need you and that kind of thing, and.
The buddy cop
dynamic. If you're certainly taking your time with that, if that is your intention, but maybe you're not.
13 episodes. It's not that, and he's only worked with you for 7, so it's not like it's been that long. These were shorter seasons, obviously, than some of our other segments.
Right.
How do you feel about the length of the season? 6 or 7 episodes. Does that feel right? Do you wish they were longer? Do you wish we did more standalone cases?
I think for the story of each season, it worked out well. I'm not a fan of dragging things out just to make a longer season, like longer than it needs to be. So
Like,
I think we have other segments also that like it feels like. No, they take more time and the seasons are longer and they're heavier. So I think it's nice to have one that is not only light in subject matter, but that moves quickly.
and also way more characters.
Yeah,
in some of them,
yeah.
and, like there's a lot more ABC story going on, whereas there's less characters, less arches. So I agree.
That's why we're able to move so quickly, honestly, is because there's so fewer characters. And when we talked about doing season 2, and I said I'm going to upgrade Judy and Frank, Cordelia was considered for an upgrade, but when I'm thinking of what the next mystery was, it didn't seem obvious to me a way to keep her in all the episodes, and so there wasn't any reason to use her in that way. Which doesn't mean that she's not an important part of the segment, obviously, because you were in about half of season 2, and you were in about half of season 1, or a little bit less than half. So that's part of she's part of the story, obviously, because all the leads are connected to her in a very strong way.
She's seasoning.
And she's also been the client. She's basically been the client for both seasons.
Yeah.
And that's the way I treat privates, is they are individual cases, but the first case was connected to the second case, which is connected to the third case. We haven't done like a standalone case that's its own thing. That, yes, this mystery is solved, but now there's another mystery behind it that we need to get to. I don't know how many seasons Privates has in it for that particular like layering, but we'll see.
Well, back to the other thing about whether Jake would want to work with Frank, I think it would take something external to drive that. Thinking back, since you put it, the interconnectedness of it, there isn't much opportunity for him to see that kind of value in the relationship. It's more like just circumstantial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unless he can actually be helpful contextually with whatever the case is. Yeah.
And so far, we're only working on Cordelia's stuff, so he's part of the thing.
Right.
In fact, he solved the case quicker in season 2 than Jake did. Did anyone see that coming?
My headcanon was that Frank's actually a really good detective. Turns out that's not accurate. I like to pretend that that's real.
He just accidentally stumbles on the answer.
He's just super lucky.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Do you think Jake is a good detective?
Jake is
Yes.
a good detective?
I don't know. I feel like it could, so far he has figured stuff out eventually. I think it's hard. I could see it going either way, as being, it would be hilarious if it turns out he was actually not great. But it's more interesting that so far he's at least just middle of the road, sort of.
Well, but also so far he's been personally connected to his cases. We haven't really seen him just work a case in a very objective manner, and
thwarted at every
right.
Yes.
Yeah, where he's not being actively interfered with or sabotaged. It also is interesting because it's very realistic that when you have personal relationships involved, it feels like he's either very intuitive and very on point, or he's completely off, and both are because of his own feelings and biases.
How do you feel about Judy's role in the show so far? What do you think of it? Or
When is this airing?
after season 2?
After the one we're
Yes,
doing?
after the finale today.
Okay. Well, I was thinking
Fair
about
question.
it, and I'm very excited for whatever is coming in season 3 because I love playing Judy. It's a fun dynamic. I don't really know her though, and what her driving motivation is, other than I think she does genuinely care about Jake, but I'm not sure what's pushing her along through life.
Yeah, I feel like she's kind of been the female, almost the cliche female love interest that isn't developed the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But, there's been some breadcrumbs dropped about her.
Yeah.
We've learned a little bit of her past. We've met her mother. We know a little bit of that dynamic.
Yeah.
And season 3 is certainly set up for her to have a larger, more active role in the story.
Yeah. It's really funny because at first I thought that Judy and Cordelia were not much alike, and then as towards the end of season 1 and then throughout season 2, it's they're actually maybe very similar. So it'll be interesting now to see what parts of her father she shares.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to meet the father. And
Well,
that
we met him
reminds me-
today, but barely.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm excited to
Oh.
see more.
Congratulations, Jake.
See the daddy. No, Which
No,
one?
he's the stepdaddy.
Jake's the daddy. No, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
did you
my
ever-
stepdaddy?
A couple things. First, I'm still trying to remember what exactly is going to happen today, which is great. Because I actively push those kinds of things out of my head until sometimes it's like I still don't know what's going on until we actually perform it live and I'm taking it in and actually. Because every now and then we have people substituting or it gets a little choppy or it just get a little disconnected from what's happening and just.
That's true. We did not have the actor playing your father in rehearsal last week. So you haven't heard the actor perform as that character yet.
Well, there's that.
Chase.
That's
Jesus,
right.
my daddy!
Yeah.
Don't, no. He can never hear that.
We'll make that a snippet.
No.
He's a mobster too.
My new ringtone.
I was just gonna say radio hour.
You've got a rich mother and a mobster father.
Wait, did we know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the finale.
They said.
Just tonight.
I'm just picturing now Chase playing this, and that's where my excitement is coming from.
That's what happened. I guess I
He'll be a reoccurring character in The Lover of Cordelia next season, I imagine. That he'll be involved quite a bit. Because now Jake and Frank are working for him, unfortunately. So Cordelia obviously has been more the driving catalyst, but more of a background. How do you think she may play into this next stretch of story if her ex-husband's getting involved?
she's going to be. I imagine that she's going to be sort of playing tug of war for Judy's soul, pretty much. I remember when we first started this, Nathan asking, "Why does Judy and Cordelia sound so different?" And,
Rebellion.
well, my thought process was Cordelia grew up like on the streets of New York. That's why she's a little more like, has that sort of voice, and then has the money, and then sent Judy off to school.
Makes
And
perfect
then
sense.
There's, that's just sort of how I've imagined Cordelia in my head. So I think this next season we're going to see some push and pull. She's going to have some interactions with her husband. Now I don't know, of course, but this is just my imagination. So we're going to see her fighting for Judy, not only affection, but probably like just, you're better than this, Judy. Come be, like you don't need to do that. So I think there's.
I could totally see Judy as having been a boarding school
Yes.
baby and just came home for like holidays and like events and stuff.
Yep.
And I don't think that like, at least Cordelia, I don't know about her father, but I don't think you didn't care about her at all.
Right.
It was just
Giving Judy
Yeah.
the better opportunity to make something more.
but also freeing up your time to
Yeah,
do it.
she's a bit of a socialite now.
What a lady of leisure would want to do.
Sounds to me like a flashback episode
Ooh.
between Cordelia and the dad.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Oh my God, can we see Judy as a little kid talks like Cordelia, Mommy?
Oh my
and then
God.
at one point she comes back and she's older and, hello, Mother.
I love it.
I'm a woman now.
Next writer's room.
Well, I think a big difference we talked about Cordelia and Judy early on was it felt like Judy's extremely sexual. And Cordelia, we didn't see that. Well, all the sultriness. Until late in the season when, and I'm not sure it was really on the page, but somebody rightly pointed out, I don't remember who, that yeah, she's probably like that too. Like Judy gets it from somewhere. And I think her and her mother are more alike than they initially seem, for sure.
Did we say anything about how long, I forget the father character's name, Wayne and Cordelia have been separated? Like how much was he there?
Yeah, I haven't decided when they broke up, but it's definitely been a while.
Okay.
And Judy, is part of her anger at Cordelia is being kept away from her father. So there's some beef they need to work out there, for sure.
Yeah.
Enough that Frank is,
Unaware of who he is.
well, just the I feel like Frank and Cordelia have been together for at least a bit of time, at least I would say probably at least 2 years.
Oh, more than that, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so Judy would know Frank well enough.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so
I have a feeling it happened a long time ago.
I guess I need to check the tape. But, so we have the reel-to-reel machine here. Did you ever answer the question about the ages?
No, I did not.
Okay.
So we said Judy and Jake have been on again, off again for 18 years, I believe, was in one of the recent scripts. So they're probably about late 30s, 40 years old. So that puts Cordelia at least, if she was a teenage pregnancy, which I think quite likely. I think Cordelia was a young mother. So I think Cordelia's probably late 50s, 60 maybe. Frank, I'm guessing he's a little bit younger. Just the dynamic.
I felt
not a lot younger.
Yeah, I felt like
He's 5
Frank
years.
and Jake are similar in age, at least.
I think Frank's probably 5 to 10 years younger than Cordelia.
Which
10 years older than
be another reason
Split
why.
the difference.
Yeah.
Which would be another reason why Judy doesn't like Frank too much, because it's like, you're basically my peer and you're dating my mother. Like,
Also, you're just a kind of a goob.
Well, we met
Doofus.
Frank through Jake's perspective in season 1, and Jake's perspective was he's a con man. He's just in
Yeah.
it for the money. He's worthless. But what we see in season 2 is he really cares about Cordelia, and he will do whatever it takes to protect Judy because he knows Cordelia loves Judy.
still a con man, but not for that.
Not for the bad.
Not for
He's
you.
an honest con man.
Yeah.
Well, we know
Loving
he also
con man.
came up through a poor background like she did.
Yeah.
And that he has rejected and built a different life for himself. So I think there's some similarity
Yeah.
between Frank and Cordelia and how they connect.
Yeah.
I don't think Judy wouldn't like Frank necessarily because he's a con man, because her father isn't a great person either, and I
Sure.
think she respects him. I think it's more just the like strength of character that she's a little like,
Not sure where he lands on things.
yeah.
Yeah, I think Cordelia and Frank's relationship seems pretty solid to me. Judy and Jake, not quite as solid. You're a lot more on again, off again.
Well, we don't really see much about like what.
The off again.
Well,
Well,
other than the sexuality and the heat and stuff, we don't really see what keeps them
Yeah, there's passion.
together.
Well, the
Yeah.
passion's definitely there, but they don't seem to have a lot of conversations apart
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah.
Because the first season they were a bit off
Sure.
again, and now they're clearly on again.
On again. Jake tried to resist because he believed she belonged in jail, but well, you were working with the bad guys in season 1.
Well,
Is Judy trustworthy?
No.
To anybody? Like, who do you think she cares about in this world? Like, really cares about? I mean, obviously her mother loves her very much, but is that returned?
Judy cares about Judy.
Yeah, that's true.
I think she does care about Jake, but I don't think, especially given the way she grew up, I don't think she really knows what a healthy, loving relationship actually looks like.
Yeah.
To her, it's like, well, I care about this person, so I'm going to manipulate them and do what I think is best for them while also benefiting myself.
That's a
agree with that.
very cynical way to look at what Cordelia did to Judy. But I understand it. Like, I don't think it's
But we also
inaccurate.
don't know what the school was like
That's
either.
true.
Like if that is like going to turn canon, because right now it's just
Just
sort of
discussion.
out there.
It was a
But-
school for little con artists.
The school
Delinquents.
Wayne sent her to this
like a lot of mafiosos send their kids there. You know how like presidents send their kids to this school.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of that. It's in a cave.
Cordelia just didn't know. She was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Wait, yeah, it was at a point when Wayne was like, their relationship was good. He's like, we're gonna send it to this school, and Cornelia's like, okay, and Judy's like, bye guys, and she comes back just this evil mastermind.
So you think Wayne was behind a lot of the decisions made for Judy? Or do you think Cordelia?
Ooh,
Do you think Cordelia would have tried to exert influence?
So that could be a very interesting thing that, all Judy ever saw was her mother sent her away.
Yeah,
And then
'cause-
they eventually
yeah.
find out that, no, her dad made all the decisions, so all of your anger towards her really is misplaced.
I definitely feel like Cordelia shielded Judy from the worst of what her dad was.
which could also
To
be
protect
why
her.
to send her
Yeah.
to the school.
Yeah.
Might not even be. It's so because I like what Shane just said, but if you can go multiple different directions with
Sure.
that. That'd
Yeah,
be fun.
this is turning into a story pitch.
Yeah, right?
At least you have it recorded.
We do, and we're going to release it to the public before we write those stories.
Oh,
that's-
God.
Keep listening,
So
folks,
they-
because we don't even know what's going to happen.
that may or may not happen. Where we left season 3, I thought, was a lot of cliffhanger because Judy and Jake were together, but they're both secretly working behind one another's back. Mm-hmm. Do you think their relationship has any chance at all, or do you think that is just a recipe for failure?
That seems to be the going dynamic of the relationship anyway up to this point.
You think it's
So
doomed for failure?
No, well, I mean, I think it's almost part of what attracts them to each other.
They like the
Yes.
disaster. I mean,
Well-
20 years of this on and again, off again. That's a long time.
But I mean, it's. I think they need that kind of exercise of the kind of cat and mouse thing, perhaps. So
You think they would break up if they didn't have that sort of thing?
maybe. I mean, if from what we've been saying about Judy so far, I feel like she would get bored.
So you think they've had other similar circumstances? Maybe not the same thing, but they've had
Perhaps.
these other things where they're working at loggerheads in the past.
At what?
Loggerheads?
I don't think I've ever heard that expression before, but.
Like,
Why? I got it by context. It's just. What, is that a type of ram?
I just heard it as an expression. I don't know where it comes from.
Did you know it?
No.
Okay. I thought,
Okay.
everyone else is like, yeah, we
So
know.
now I'm
It's
going
like,
to Google and find out it's not a word at all.
No, Jimmy has thoroughly confused all of us.
And myself in the process. Yeah. So Judy's going to get closer to her father, which we've talked a little bit about. Jake is working for the Federal Agent Bureau of Investigations.
I guess we can't. Was it really called something different on the
The
page?
FBI, I believe.
I thought when you were saying it just now, I thought it was like, well, we can't do those. It's like copyrighted. We don't want to offend the
Federal.
FBI.
I mean,
We'll be
enough
like-
television shows
Yeah,
and
the
movies
FAB.
have used FBI. I think we're safe. I hope. But, yeah. What? I mean, basically, I kind of feel like it almost pits Jake against the whole family to be working
Well,
for the
yeah.
FBI, because I don't think any one of the characters want him doing that.
Well,
except-
yeah, I would imagine not. I meant to ask earlier, was it ever put on the page how much Judy knows about what her father does?
In my mind, she doesn't know much at all, and I'm not sure what exactly it said on the page off the top of my head, but I don't think she knows much at all. I'm not even sure she knows he's a mobster. She might just think he's a businessman.
That was my impression, at least.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was just sort of like out of nowhere.
Right.
Here's Wayne. This is what he does. Like, wait, what? So
Yeah, so how close she gets to her father would probably affect whether her and Jake can weather this next section.
I like the idea that like, you know, you're keeping all that from everything, you know, Frank is also working, but it's one of those things where like at the end it's Cordelia's like, or Jake's like, well, I have to tell you something, Cordelia. Frank's been working for Wayne. She's like, I know, he told me right away.
Well, that we
There's
did.
no secrets
yeah, like,
They
between them.
did say that. Like
Yeah.
you just said, she knows everything you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But like you could play it as like, yeah, that whole like, oh, they finally have a secret, and it turns out no.
Yeah, how did you feel, Sam, about learning that Cordelia was sending Judy to sexually distract Jake from time to time?
I mean, you know, Cordelia's definitely one who climbed her social ranks, and there's a reason she did that. So I don't think it's a like Cordelia is you know, I would say forward thinking and not like use your feminine wiles, you know, like sort of use what you have to get what you need. I don't think she's ever out to hurt anyone, but you got to secure yourself before you take care of others.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue as Cordelia doing that because it's going to benefit multiple people.
Sure.
I think it would also be a very different matter if they had never had a relationship before.
Yeah.
To go get that guy, or if not like she necessarily said, you have to have sex with him, like you said, feminine
Yeah,
wiles.
just
Distract
seduce,
it,
just
yeah.
a little,
Just
a wink
distract.
and a, you know, put on some mascara and just bat your eyes a little bit and pout your lips and get what you want. You don't have to sleep with anybody.
I think any actual conversation or any time they've actually connected is mostly later in Judy's life, so when she was more of an adult, and B, probably over things like that, like men troubles or venting about the men in their lives or how to, you know,
Yeah.
get what we want.
Well, it doesn't seem like Judy questioned why Cordelia was sending her at all. She's just like, yeah, Mom's telling me to go there.
Well, I would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to do this morning, so
Get a little seduction in before lunch. Sure.
Did we establish what year it is?
no.
So we need to do an episode on a hot air balloon, or not a hot air balloon, a
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin. Yeah.
I mean, so
Like Archer?
in my mind, it is. I mean,
With the rocket.
Nancy.
I can't remember if we've used a cell phone or something. In my mind, I feel like it is 2022 or whatever, but it's in a different dimension. So
Oh, right.
it's
That-
almost steampunky in terms of like maybe there is some technology, but they're not pulling cell phones out of their pockets. Zeppelins would very likely still be around.
See, this-
Steampunk detective noir. I like it.
I love it. Like the mental image of the world. I was just like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, we haven't really got into any steampunky thing, but I think it would fit very easily in the world we've created.
This would be great for the crossover eventually.
What crossover?
You know the whole thing about the
Thirteen.
characters inverting, going to different voices, or whatever Tim's going to mess up,
Sure.
and there would be good opportunity for exposition about what these places are and how they work. But
Just gave away so much.
Yeah, I don't think Privates is set in the same dimension as any of our other segments. I think it would be a stretch to either that or just these characters are so specific that they're in their own little environment.
that's the point. I mean, they're all in different dimensions, so that's what Tim does. He's doing a whole.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
So what are you most looking forward to in season 3? Or 4, or 5?
What Kristin said earlier.
What'd you say earlier?
Let's just go back and listen to everything. Listen to the whole thing.
Try to guess which part Keith particularly likes.
Well, she specifically said that she's looking forward to season 3, learning more about Judy and the dynamic and what's going to happen with them.
Yes.
Yeah, personally for me, it's to give Judy, or to find a little bit more of her multi-dimensional side and what makes her tick, where she's
Multi-time and
coming
space.
from, and what exactly her goal is here. Yeah.
More Frank trying to wear down Jake.
He is going to be his friend, whether he wants to be friends or not.
Obviously you can do whatever you want, but I love the dynamic of like what people would think would be the obvious eventual buddy cop scenario, and then it just never goes there.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times where Jake has genuinely offended Frank, and I
Yeah.
have to wonder where Frank's
Yeah.
line is. Like, when will it get to be too much? I mean, it's kind of like Meow Meow and Kake in those early seasons where, Meow Meow really wanted to be his buddy, and then he stopped wanting to be his buddy because it just never materialized.
Yeah.
So, even if years later it may eventually materialize, their dynamic has shifted over.
Yeah.
I think Frank and Jake do not have a set dynamic at the moment, and I don't know what it will be going forward.
So it feels like you have something against Shane because you always make him, like, people just hate
I have to
him.
earn
Like-
everyone.
People just hate his character.
It's just
do you
so
have
easy
something
to hate
Do you have
Shane.
something to tell us, Jimmy? No.
No, I adore Shane. I
Just
think he
teasing.
knows. I hope.
Oh, shucks.
Watch.
Well, I just thought of something to mention that we probably should. That actually did already happen. The music.
Yes.
So you originally got like a public domain, not public
No,
domain. but
Kristin composed it.
The first one?
Yes.
The very first one.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was like one of those. Huh.
No, Kristin wrote it.
Your stuff's good enough to be in the
Composed
post.
Wow.
and performed it.
Yeah.
That's me.
And then she composed the variations that we did last month as well.
The
How did I not know
one for
Thank you.
Frank. Every time it went, "Merp," I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was laughing every single time. It
very-
just hit me in the funny bone every time I heard that sound.
I wanted him to hear it for the first time during the read through, but then like the day before the last show, I was like, I can't get through it without laughing. I think I should give him the opportunity to get used to it a little bit. So I played it for him like a day or two.
It's a good thing I did because same like it started going. I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, "Brr."
And every time.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on your process for composing 4 versions of the?
Well, so first of all, part of it was just the voice that I used on the keyboard at all, and what just to me felt like it fit the different characters' personalities. For Judy's, it's a little softer, and there's a little more like reverb on there to sort of match her voice. Cordelia's was, I think it was like a harpsichord sound. So it had that sort of like very upper class, like nobility, but like it's also very plinky, so there's not a lot behind it. So that sort of just seemed like Cordelia. Frank's it's obviously my favorite. There was an idea that I would use a sound of like a kid's like toy piano, but I couldn't find a plug-in for it that worked. So I just chose a sound, but then I decided the idea would be that the bass line would be sort of like Jake. Like in my head, that variation is like Jake and Frank's relationship, where the bass is on beat, and it's prominent, and it's even, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the bass line. And then the other hand comes in, and it's off tempo. It's not on key. And then at one point, the bass stops and like repeats itself, almost like someone trying to say, nope, do this, do this. And it just can't get it right. So eventually the bass line just keeps going. Like, oh my God, okay.
That's amazing.
It's so good.
Well, it's the best
It's like
part.
a competent person trying to teach someone something and they're just not getting it.
The best part about this roundtable is that Jimmy's going to go back and edit this to intersperse the music samples perfectly.
Send them to me. I'll
Yes,
put
I
them
will.
I'll put them in. That's a good suggestion.
I was going to mention that, this what we kind of touched on this earlier, but this just seems unusually productive for a roundtable. and also just I've learned more than I thought I was going to learn.
Well, since you brought up the episode with the various themes, which we had talked about doing a long time ago, like that would be so cool. How did you feel, especially you, Keith, not getting to... You've narrated every episode as the voice of that segment, and you show up at the end and don't even get any bit of narration. How did you feel about that?
Disappointed, but at the same time, I think it's the hallmark of a good or fun series when you can take an episode like that at least to start to when you establish the format and then use that to play with the audience's expectations or do like a little joke or variation on it of that sort.
And how did it feel for the rest of you getting to do the narration and
It was
get
fun.
inside your head a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. It's always a little strange when then like other people who don't seem to notice it like pick it up, but I love when they do that.
Yeah.
Also in my head it was like, is this us eventually like being interrogated by the FBI? That's all the
that's really
narrations have
interesting.
ever been, is like their eventual like, okay, I'll tell you everything.
I have not considered that. That's really interesting.
Well, I was thinking, like, okay, but under what circumstances would we all be now participating in this narration?
Well,
And it makes sense because Jake started talking to the FBI before any of us, so
Yeah.
he has way more.
In my mind, it was just this segment has a character narrator, and if we've taken that character out of the segment for an episode, then we need somebody else to pick up the ball.
Yeah.
And rather than just picking one of you, it felt fun to take. I mean, we could have just picked one and the next season done somebody else,
Yeah.
but it felt fun to use all three of you.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
Unreal.
Oh.
It's felt like you got to sort of explore the personality a little more, especially like because we haven't done a lot of backstory with some people, and like Cordelia not being necessarily a main character, more the secondary. Like I said, sprinkle in here and there. It was fun to have a little more, and I don't know. I'm always happy when I get to do Cordelia because I love her voice, and I just have fun being her. So
Yeah,
I was happy.
My thinking was save her for last because it's not a given, because she's not the lead. Like Judy and Frank are leads, so are we going to get Cordelia? And we did get Cordelia, so I think that's kind of a fun little, are we going to get her, or are we going to go back to the other two? No, we're going to get her. I think that's what fans would want to hear. That's what I
hope
wanted
so.
to hear.
Love me.
Yeah.
That's
The rule of 3. That
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
sometimes is a little overdone, but in this case, I felt like if you're gonna, especially with like new music and getting the other perspectives, like you shouldn't leave her out at all. Yeah.
No, and the FBI theory that you had, I mean, that presupposes we'd probably use the themes more going forward, which isn't necessarily the plan right now, but also isn't necessarily not the plan. So we'll see.
Stay tuned, folks.
I don't want to lose Jake as the center,
Oh,
but
no.
that doesn't mean we won't necessarily check in with the other characters from time to time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about the format and playing with it, I was also considering how that's helpful and fun to the audience in the sense that it forces them to analyze the format of the show in a certain way, or key into certain elements. And once you have that, that's again the hallmark. That was the word I was using before. It's sort of like something that takes a show to the next level. I think in a lot of cases, and people can start to use that format to signature, as you were saying, something like that.
Yeah.
How many seasons do you think this one has in it?
I think once you start getting to external stories, and once you start to not necessarily story of the week, but also when you're expanding the characters, as you seem to be planning to do in season 3, then it just kind of can go off exponentially from there. So who knows?
I think it has a lot in it, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the specific story of Cordelia's fortune that we've explored in 2 seasons, 1 or 2 more seasons at most, but that doesn't mean the characters are done.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we stretch it out. Not stretch it out. We'll do it as long as the story justifies doing it. And season 2 was supposed to be 8 episodes. I had 8 episodes slotted, I had 8 episodes planned, and then as I wrote episode 6, I was like, we're not getting 8 episodes. This is going to be 7.
Well,
and so that's what we did.
Yeah.
Whereas Private season 1, it was always 6 from the... No, it was supposed to be... Was
I
it
thought it
supposed
was
to be... Okay. 6 might have been it, but there was no plan of the 6th one. Like, you got to episode 5, and I had to go back and re-listen and write episode 6 by pulling pieces from the first 5 episodes.
Wow.
Like, there was no overall plan, where season 2 was a little more settled. Although even the FBI thing was kind of a last-minute toss-in. But it sets up season 3, so...
Well, and also I think it's kind of a testament to the fact that this was supposed to be a one-and-done, 1 season, and that was it. And we all enjoyed it so much that it was like, no, we want to keep going with these guys. And that's kind of the fun part about what we do here, is that we can have a one-off character like Holly Harper, who's just started in the commercials, and now she's in full sketches. You know, things that started off one way or meant to be one thing will grow into something else, or something that we plan to be big. It's like, nope, that only works here. So the flexibility and availability and talent of, you know, everyone that is involved in this.
Especially Shane.
I think
She's just-
something I think something like that, like it really shows through. And something like Privates is that, no, this is supposed to be this, and then it just grew, and because of the love of it.
I was nervous about going beyond the 6 or 7 minute format, too, that we did for the first season, where they were shorts.
Yeah.
But I think it worked out pretty well. It's still shorter than, like, a Universe Journey episode, I think. It's still one of the shorter episode segments, but it's longer than a short.
Is this the first roundtable we've done about
For privates, yes.
Okay, I thought so.
The first season was just too short, I felt, to really
Yeah.
do a roundtable.
So I want to ask, I think I know the answer to this, but I think it's an interesting tidbit for Shane and the character of Frank. If I remember correctly, the voice you used for Frank is what you auditioned for Jake with?
This is correct.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell that story, because I think it's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean-
isn't that how Frank, like, got created?
Yes.
Because it was like...
Yeah.
This is someone else. This isn't
Yeah.
Jake, but who is this person?
No, it
Oh,
absolutely.
so that wasn't the whole story then?
No,
Okay.
and that is one of the many reasons I adore Shane, is even if I'm not going to use the audition, he gave me something that I wanted to explore. And I think...
No, I love that you do that too, because sometimes it's a great voice, but it's like,
Yeah.
we can't use
But
it
not
for
for
this.
this.
But yeah, you
But
don't.
it was too good to use as a guest spot and one-off.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite character voices.
It just felt to me not as strong of a leading man as what I wanted for Jake, but man, it makes a really good sidekick, supporting player. Not supporting even, because he is a lead. Like, it's a major character. And when I first wrote episode 2 and said, I'm putting you in this as this, I remember telling you, like, we'll see him more than once, but I don't know how often we'll see him. And then when you two were trapped on the boat in season 1 and you had the dynamic, it was like, oh no, we need more of this.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be like, oh, you got to Cordelia, he goes back with Cordelia, and Jake goes on to the next case. And it was, no, how can we get this in there?
Yep.
And that was how we started the season with the Christmas episode where we go to Cordelia's house and everybody has something for Jake. And again, Jake is the center, but you all rotate around him to a certain extent. So it's a fun dynamic to play with, in my opinion. It feels more focused in its thrust and its characters and its purpose than some of the other segments, because it is so laser focused on Jake and the people right around him in his inner circle.
Yeah.
Do you remember the thing from the first episode where he was supposed to be doing a different voice as well?
I don't.
Like, I'm trying to remember what that was supposed to be. It was supposed to be like he was the voice that he's doing, that we always hear him doing, is supposed to be something that he is pretending to do.
Yeah, like his speaking voice would be a little different than his narration voice, because there is a subtle difference.
Oh, I hadn't thought
Is
of
that
that
what
too.
you're talking?
Well, no, there was like the actual stage direction or the writing direction was supposed to be that he was slipping at one point. There was like a few lines where he was supposed to be delivering a certain way. Do you remember that? It was
Something plot related to that
Just,
episode?
or just
yes,
the
like-
stage direction
like
in the
You're
script.
talking about Jake or Frank?
Frank.
Frank in the cop episode, yes. He
Oh,
slipped.
I thought you were.
Yeah.
I thought you knew what I was talking.
That
I was
was
stretching the shame.
that was back when we were with his
Brothers.
his family, because he was
The blueberries.
like he was trying to front like yeah, I'm part of the family, you know. But that's just
There was
not how he
Bo
talks.
Berry, of course, the tough guy.
Well, no,
and then Chuck Berry was a little twisty.
But I'm thinking the first episode. It's like when he first encountered him, like outside the
You're
mansion.
right, yes, absolutely. Because he didn't recognize Jake right away, and he did have a different...
Oh yeah, and then when you
demeanor
write
to him.
so it went from like sort of a
Yeah.
tough
Oh,
to
yeah.
Jake Cotton is
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
And we
God.
saw that again with the cops.
Yeah.
So, I
Huh.
think we need to learn more about Frank's backstory as well, and Cordelia and how they came together. I think there's a lot to explore there. So,
Wait, who were his brothers?
the Bo Berry and Chuck Berry.
Okay,
The
no.
blueberries.
Oh, okay, you said, and then we saw it again with the cops. I thought.
Yes.
My brain went, wait, his brothers are cops?
Yeah.
They
remember?
are cops?
Yeah, outside the bank. That's when we
His
met them.
brothers are the cops.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Were they corrupt cops at the time? And there was something.
They were bullies to him. They treated
Yeah.
him horribly.
Do they know what a con artist he is?
I mean, they definitely said he's a troublemaker, but they are on a different beat, and they just leave him alone, and they know nothing about his life right now. He's not close to his brothers.
I feel like Frank is so, and my favorite word for him is doofus. He's so funny, and I feel like Frank would be, like, you think that he's a bad con man, right? But it's that doofishness that allows him to be a great con man, and I think that
People
would be
underestimate him.
exactly,
They do.
and he could just take whatever he wants out from under their nose, you know.
And I really feel like con man might not be the most accurate label anymore. I mean, that's where we started. He is putting on a front. He is playing a character with the people he loves. But I do think his motivations, honestly, from the first 2 seasons, just taking what's on the page, he seems the kindest, best-hearted of the 4 characters. And I feel like, yeah, he's putting on this front because this is who he wants to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad man.
Oh, no,
Like,
not
he's
at
not trying to cheat Cordelia. I think there's real love there. You know, he's putting his neck on the line for Judy, who he's not even, like, that's just his girlfriend's daughter. So I feel like...
I feel like he's softened Cordelia
Yeah.
in the long run. Like
So-
she's learning to be more emotional and
Yeah.
caring outwardly versus
Yeah.
more stoic.
I think you're
Well,
right.
but also when you found out he was a con artist, like, you probably, I would imagine, like, given your past with Wayne, it would be like, nope, absolutely not.
And yet, for some reason, she did it. So
she knows, or it's
I
like
think she's gotta. I don't think there's secrets between them.
No,
I could be
Frank
wrong.
Cordelia tell each other.
About Wayne or Frank?
Frank. Well, see, as you said, when we label like con man or con artist, then that implies that there is
Somebody being fooled, a victim of something.
well, not only that, but I mean, like it's almost like a profession you're giving him. Like this is something he sets out to do, whereas it seems more like he might just be crafty.
Yeah.
I think
As
it's
opposed
a little
to-
more of a hustler might be a better word, where it's not like it's just, hey, I can see a way I can make a quick buck. Like it's not really going to hurt anyone,
He's a
other
gambler.
than I'm going to get money
You're
out
a
of
swindler,
someone.
you're a cheat.
I saw him as very much like an Uncle Max from The Sound of Music, where he's running in those social elite circles, but he doesn't have any money of his own. He's a moocher.
It's kind of vague what he does.
Right, he's
Yeah.
kind of a moocher, but then in the end of the movie, he does help them escape. Like, he does have the heart. So, that's the way I saw it.
Well, never saw it. Now I don't need to.
That is the whole movie, is
Yep,
Uncle
right there.
Max.
Yeah, Uncle Max.
He's
is
the central character.
Oh.
No, not at all. But
He's in like 3 scenes.
in the musical, he has a song.
Oh.
It's not in the movie, but... Anyway,
Are
let's
we
do...
doing a privates musical? we all sing in our voices.
Oh, God.
That reminds me
Maybe.
of the
We'll
thing
see.
I was going to say before about the voice at the beginning, the flat voice.
Yeah.
One of the problems I was having is if I go much deeper, it's very hard to project.
Yeah.
It's a problem I was having in getting it to be audible. So
Yeah, get right up on that mic. Okay, final thoughts on privates. We'll start with Sam.
I enjoy privates a lot. I think it's really fun, and the puns, and I'm excited to like sort of expand the insults in the dialogue between characters is always like.
Yeah, we never even talked
So
about the
good.
puns and stuff. There's a
I
few
love
of
the
those.
puns.
There's a
Just
few.
a couple.
Yeah.
I wrote an
Surprised
episode
there's
without them, and then in a script session, they're like, "This one doesn't have any." Put some
Yeah,
in.
it's so weird.
Yeah, so we put some in. Kristen.
Agree with all that. I really, like I said, I love that it has a faster pace to it. There's a smaller central cast of characters. Really, like this is it. We don't see anyone else very often. I like how playful the dynamic and the dialogue is, and I think with this group of actors specifically, I have a lot of fun playing with you guys and the rhythm that we get to do on stage with this. So yeah.
We've had no reoccurring characters. Everybody else has only been in there once,
Yeah.
except Theodore was in twice, and I think Johan was in like 3 times, but he's
That's
a
right.
minor.
Yeah.
But next season we'll have Wayne and Mary Louise as reoccurring characters,
Okay.
so that'll be Shane.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, yes, the word puns and everything, like they're typically sequential, like and some of them are very tricky to make
Yep.
sound like something
You're
like
welcome.
like the Friends one. I love Friends, so that was very fun, but it was super hard to like twist the word Chandler into the word that it was supposed to kind of sound like in the right cadence. So that's been a fun like challenge.
As long as I can
Acting-wise.
justify it in my head and hear it, then that's
Yeah.
on you guys. Keith.
Well, Chris, just roll back and insert what Sam said. Maybe do it in my voice, and tack in a couple things that Kristen said in the middle, and that should be it.
What they say.
You can ignore all that, Chris. Well, thank you all for talking privates, and I'm sure we'll talk it again after we do some more episodes. So.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
It's all been on Radio Hour number 379, Story Roundtable number 9, Privates. Check out our website at IABDpresents.com. And we want to thank both Circle 270 Media, which this podcast is a part of, and Boxland Media, our host performance space. Don't forget to support us at patreon.com/IABD. A mere $2 donation gets you access to past and upcoming live streaming shows, as well as exclusive bloopers and videos. Have a great week.